Welcome to part 3 of the painting challenge where I'm doing an oil painting and an acrylic painting at the same time. So in the first 2 parts, I did a outline for each one. I did an outline in Sharpie for the acrylic just to make it more sharp. And I did the outline with the oil in oil paints. The oil painting, I'm only using paint, whereas the acrylic one, I'm doing Sharpie for some of the details and outlines. And yeah, I did a few of the first kind of shapes and smaller doodles that I wanted to plan out. Then I filled in some color of those aspects. I wanted to make sure I don't fill in the whole background for the paintings because I find then the details are pretty limited after, and I'm trying to cut down on very large parts and large spots where it's the same color. So sometimes I'll do it and then I'll section it off later, but I'm just trying to do a good balance of doodles and planned aspects at the beginning. One of the toughest parts of this painting challenge has been finding the balance of how long to spend on each painting at a time. I did a challenge where I did 2 oil paintings at the same time, and it was pretty easy because even when I had the same color on the brush, I could go back and forth the paintings pretty quickly, and even just in the same kind of time where I'm up the canvases. But with this one, I have a different set of brushes, different paints, obviously, and just a whole different kind of process. So to switch from acrylic to oil, I kind of go to the other little station that I have set up, and sometimes I'll have to mix a new color, and the acrylic paints dry a lot faster, and I've had it where I mix a little bit and 20 minutes later it's dry. So just kind of finding the balance. I find I'll do one color or kind of a little area of one painting, and then I'll switch over. Sometimes it's tough because I kind of get lost in it and I really want to finish a section, but I'm trying to stick to the challenge, which is, I guess, wanting to see how I can switch back and forth. So I'm going through, I wanted to add more dark background colors on the acrylic one. And this little yellow part too, I'm using to section off. I didn't want to commit to one color that goes across this whole kind of skyline over the city. And I'm going to have a bunch of different colors in the train tracks. So I really want to make sure that I don't commit to one large color there. With the oil painting, I'm trying to find a balance between the dark and light colors for the background. I have a lot of light, it seems, so I'm trying to either have some dark doodles on it or just find a way to kind of separate that a little bit. I want to do a little bit of yellow and pink in the background for the acrylic one. I think it'll go well with the light blue that I have. I have 2 different blues, and I think it just kind of adds more instead of just having the same blue throughout it. I'll also be using each of the blues in the other ones as just to create some texture. And I like this yellow gold color for the acrylic. I find it looks really good with the darker colors beside it, and even when I'm get it a little bit mixed with the outline, I find it still looks good. I thought it needed some red in the bottom left, so I'm doing it around this little boat that's upside down. And I'll probably add some white to the boat just to make it pop out more. It's always kind of tough at this part, just finding that balance of light versus dark. And I think I'm doing it, but you never really know until most of the painting is covered. I've been really trying to add the details within the shapes and the aspects that I have planned before doing background colors, but for some of them, there's only so many options, so I do them beforehand just to see kind of the future planning of where the other colors are going to go. But some of the faces and the smaller designs I'm trying to do before, sometimes you'll see that the details within it don't stand out as much as you wanted them to. So then you know that the colors around it need to be lighter, or maybe it stands out too much and it takes away from another one beside it, so you do a brighter one. I don't really know much about the actual theory or science behind it. This is just all completely based off of what I've been doing and what I think looks good. So it could be completely wrong if you're looking at it from a technical perspective, but the whole purpose of my paintings, I just enjoy doing it, and I'm trying to challenge myself to do other stuff, to do ones that are fun to do, and I'm happy with how they look. So yeah, it's just a lot of trial and error and learning what looks good, what doesn't, certain aspects that I like. I find if I have a doodle or an aspect that I like using, you'll see it in 5 paintings in a row. And sometimes I do them for a while and it doesn't really fit in another, then I don't do them for a while. But I'm just kind of collecting different little bits of knowledge and things that I enjoy that makes painting a lot of fun. I used to do paintings and sometimes they wouldn't take long at all. It would be about 5 hours, but some of these ones have been over 100 hours of painting, especially the extremely detailed large ones. And I really enjoy it. I enjoy the process of doing it, and I'm not really in a rush to finish them. And I think that's what's been making it a lot more enjoyable. For this top part of the oil painting, I needed to add a color that goes well with the blue and doesn't take away from it. I want to have like a cool kind of earth globe face there. So I thought I'd go with the pink. I don't have any pink in it, so I want to put it in a few other places just so it doesn't look randomly placed there. I like using pink. There's some that I use that are more bright, but kind of like the darker one. If I need to, I'll add a little bit of white paint into it to brighten it up, but I find it's a good background color that isn't too bright but isn't too dark, and it looks good. It can be closer to the reds without it clashing. And yeah, I've been enjoying just kind of trying out the new oil paints. So I think this is my 5th or 6th oil painting. I kind of lost track, but I'm really noticing the difference between acrylic and oil, especially doing it right beside at the same time. And I still don't really have a favorite. I think depending on the style or how detailed I want it, it totally depends on what kind of painting I'm going for. I think this bottom left part of the oil painting, I'm gonna need a lot more dark details over the bright backgrounds. I have the yellow that goes into the orange and the pink, so I'm gonna have to do something, but I needed to have a bright background to not wash out the details of the boat. So I'm doing this little palm tree. I'm having the base of it black just to split up some of the bright colors. And both these paintings will look a lot different than they are now when they're done. Like I mentioned before, usually the point of the painting where all the white spaces are covered is around the halfway point, because I want to add those details and textures and some of the blending afterwards. So it'll be interesting to see how it is, and now I know that I need to add some darker colors to balance it out. But I like the color mix, especially of the acrylic one so far. I added in some of those browns, and that makes a huge difference. I have that in the oil one, and I don't think I need any more. So I definitely need to use a few other colors just to kind of balance it all. Now we are getting a lot closer to all of the blank spaces of the canvas being covered. And then I can do a lot more of the layers and kind of try and create different, almost like dimensions to each painting, where there's some background layers and doodles and aspects, but then there's usually brighter colors that kind of pop out on top. So I'm going to kind of take a step back once all of the white areas are painted, and then I can get a better idea of what colors need to go where. There's always one spot where it seems like I can't really pick something that would make sense for the whole kind of painting when you look at it. Either I have too much of that color throughout it, or it's too close. So I'll have to do some kind of careful color planning then and see what works. Sometimes I do add a color and it doesn't work, and especially with oil, I can just go over it with a different color and brighten it up or make it darker, and it's a little bit more forgiving that way. With the acrylic, it's easier to cover up, but because it dries so fast, you don't really get to blend it in afterwards, so we'll see what happens. I think with this oil painting, that kind of dark pink color has been really good because I don't have a lot of background colors for this one. Sometimes I have like 10 different backgrounds, so you can kind of just use one of those. But with this one, I have a lot of the blues, a lot of that yellow and orange. So I needed a different type of color to do it. I was gonna do red, but for some of them, it's beside a red area. So I had to go with the pink, and I actually really like it. Sometimes when I blend a new color for a background spot that's needed, works out really well because it goes well on top of another one. So for the pink, worked out well because it can go on top of some of the darker ones and it looks nice and bright. And I've also been doing more where if I have one shade of one color, I do little textures in a lighter or darker shade on top of it. I always used to do different colors for textures or just stick to white or yellow. But I think that's kind of cool. It adds a little more kind of realistic. If you're looking at a scenery or something, just more shades of that same one. So a lot of learning in these painting challenges, and it's a lot of fun to kind of see what tips and what things work and how I can practice for things that I can use in my next paintings. I'll probably end up having 2 more parts to this painting project. I like to do parts that are under 20 minutes. I've done some in the past where they're 30 or 40, but especially the ones where I'm talking in the background, I like to keep them short, and it allows me to kind of focus more on what I'm doing in each part of it. Sometimes with the longer ones, I find I'm just kind of saying the same thing over and over just to fill silence, and that gets boring for everyone. So yeah, I'd love to hear any feedback on what kind of videos you like, if you prefer the time-lapse ones, the ones like this but with no talking, or if you like the talking. I'm kind of looking for what works as I continue to do these. I'm also interested in hearing any painting challenge ideas and anything you want to see. So yeah, I'm always interested, even if it's themes or like an aspect or a doodle or a feeling you want to see. I'm open to anything. It's a lot of fun to kind of learn different styles and just ways to be more creative with what I'm doing. So I'm just kind of ending this part by doing some lining. Makes a big difference. Sometimes you don't realize how much of a difference it makes until you do a few minutes of lining and you look back and you see how much it kind of brings the elements out and really shows the borders and sections off the areas, and it makes the doodles and planned little aspects pop out a lot more. So yeah, thank you for watching this part, and I'll be posting the next part soon.